Hey everybody, so finally I finished my MMP project. I ran into some obstacles along the way, so what you see on the screencast probably you haven't seen before from my MMP updates. So what happened was my original plan was to create a Google Classroom. And the reason I want to do that was just because I saw my practicum teacher use it, and I wanted to learn more. But I mean, in the process, I guess I would say that I now understand how to work Google Classroom as well as another online tool. So the objective of my MMP was to try to find a more organized way for students to find out what we did in class and turn in makeup work for the days that they're absent. Because I found out during my student teaching that it could get out of hand pretty quickly. Um, with the students getting absent, always asking for makeup work, and then it's hard to keep track of what you gave out and if they turned it in, if they're getting the notes from their friends. So rather than taking risks and just saying, oh, ask so and so for the notes, and then test time comes and they didn't get the notes, I want to make it easier for them. So basically, what happened was I made a Google Classroom using um, my Rutgers email, and I started working on that from my first MMP um, update, and then I got a notification from Google saying that I'm not a teacher, and they took down my site. Um, and then secondly, my mom is a teacher, so I used her email, created my site over again, added some extra features, which was seen in my MMP update number two. But then I'm really confused as to why. But they said that that site had to come down because they said my mom wasn't a teacher. Um, when I become a teacher, I probably will take like the extra mile to figure out what went wrong with Google so then I can implement it into my own classroom. But since this was kind of time sensitive, with only pretty much 2 weeks in between the second update and the due date, I didn't really have time to try to figure out what went with Google. So I played around with a couple different online tools. And I decided to create my website on Weebly, which is what you're going to be seeing today. Um, so I'll just pretty much be giving you a tour of my site and what students could do with it. I'll post the link on the blog that I attach this screencast to, so you could check it out for yourself if you like. But yeah, so this is just an example of what my site would look like for one particular unit. So as we get more units, more stuff would be added to the site. Um, so the tabs at the top: home, class materials, do nows, and assignments slash makeup work uploads. Um, this kind of just tells the students what we're going to be looking at. We're focusing on post-revolutionary America, new government, new challenges, new opportunities. So as we learned in our last unit, the 13 colonies pursued freedom from King George and Britain by battling them in the Revolutionary War. After enduring multiple gruesome battles, the colonies pulled off a victory and now can begin as the United States of America. But with this new country, many new challenges come about. The newfound country must come up with their own traditions, customs, and government and culture. This unit will see how that develops. And this will probably be the same for pretty much every unit, but do nows must be completed, online discussions, review of the study materials. That won't be necessarily required, but that's definitely encouraged. The unit assessment, which won't take place on the website, but it's good to keep that in the students' minds, and makeup work if they're absent. And this is just basically providing them with my email. Um, it- Before each unit, I'll tell them what's added to the site. Um, but in the beginning of the year, I'll go over the site with them, what to do, how to do it, And they could always ask me any day if they're having any issues, but say it's over the weekend, and they're having issues, they could just email me here. So next, what we have is class materials. So there's two types of class materials that I decided to add on this page. Um, they both deal with the slides that I give for each class. Every class has a slideshow presentation. The reason I do that is because I put the do nows on there, so it's easier um, for the kids to have the do now questions. And also, I think the students personally um, work better or more motivated in the classroom if you don't give them homework. So rather than saying, "Hey, for homework, just take notes on this chapter," I like to give a little like brief lecture or interactive lecture in the beginning to help them get through it, because them reading it in the book might be different than hearing it. There's a whole bunch of type of learners, so they could read it off my slides, or they could hear me say it, and or maybe the combination or the supplemental materials that I might use in the slides, like that might help. Um, so every slideshow I have, so say before the test, they can just come to here, move at their own pace, or say they're absent. They could see which day that they're at because they know what they did beforehand. It's in order, and then they could just go through each slide and write it down at their own pace. They don't even have to write it down as long as they really read it. It's really what's preferred by them. Um, but yeah, in this unit, I believe there were 7 slideshows. So there's one for Articles of Confederation, the Constitution, George Washington's domestic policy and his foreign policy, John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, and then the War of 1812. But a lot of times on the slides, there's not a lot of um, added content. Like, so for example, right here, Federalist last attempts in office, they'll write all this stuff down, midnight judges, but they don't really know what midnight judges are, just reading off the slide. So if they're absent for a day, I made screencasts for each lecture on the site so far of me going through it and basically just re-giving my lecture very quick. So like this is, they could just go on.
Okay, so the objective for
And
today.
for every single one, it's me going through the presentation, so they don't really miss anything. Um, so next up is the do nows. Um, the do nows, even though I present them in class and we kind of discuss it, um, I want the do nows to be recorded of like how they did it, because during my student teaching I saw a lot of kids would pretend to do it but they didn't really do it, even though it doesn't take like a lot of effort. So I want a place to see where I could do it. So using um, the the tool, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, is it mute or mutt? It's basically a forum um, type tool that I added to my website. So I put different forums for 5 of the do nows that I want to be recorded. So the students, it's free to sign up for that tool. So I would have them sign up so I know whose account is who, and then they would just have to reply what they wrote down for the do now. Right now I just have the free plan just because it is pretty much for this project, because I'm not a teacher yet, so I would of course pay for the plan so it wouldn't expire. Um, but yeah, so this is just so I could record the do nows, make sure all the kids are doing their work. And then lastly, assignments and makeup work. Um, so this is pretty much like where any homework would be. I don't like I said earlier, I don't really like assigning notes. So instead, I like to use discussions. So these discussion questions that I ask of the students, they most likely we mention them in class, but I like to have them talk about it in class first, and maybe they could learn from their peers before they form an opinion on the topic, and then I would like to see the final product here. Um, so this is pretty much assignments or makeup work, depending if they were or weren't in class. So here are the discussion questions. Compare and contrast Shays' Rebellion to the Whiskey Rebellion. Compare and contrast the Articles of Confederation to the Constitution. Which one do you think was more effective and why? In regards to the Whiskey Rebellion, what does the quote, "Their liberty they will maintain, they fought for it, and they'll fight again," mean? And do you think the Alien and Sedition Acts could be passed in this century? How do you think the public would react? And what would it take for you to go to war with another country? With that in mind, do you think the United States was justified in going to war um, in the War of 1812? So then, with these discussion questions, the students would fill out their name, um, fill out their email, and then write it in the discussion. Like, so for example, this is how it would work. I would type in my email, and then like they would, well, actually, let me do it properly. I would want them to write discussion question number one, then like Shays Rebellion differed because dot dot dot, um, and submit. Um, so thank you. Your information has been submitted, and then I would um, each day I would um, oh, and then yeah. So then you just refresh the page, and you're able to do another comment. So I'd want them to do it for all five. So then they could do this whether they're at home or not. But I pretty much was happy with the way my website went out. I really liked the design of it more than I like Google Classroom, and I was still able to do all the things that I wanted to do. And I like how it turned out because a student could be absent and they could show up the next day no, already having the material that we covered in their head. They could have went over by themselves. They could see my lecture, um, and then they could also have a discussion question and the do now down if that pertains to that particular lesson. Um, so in the future, with a teaching career, hopefully, what I want to do is kind of just add to the site for each unit. So this is an example of what the website would look for one particular unit. But I think with all of the different units that we would cover, I think I would want to change the design more, like have the home page, but rather than having class materials, do nows, and assignments and makeup work as the tabs, I think well, actually, I might keep that, but then maybe like class materials, like right unit, post revolution, and then the next unit, title that, then the next unit, and then just have this long page. Or I was thinking of also having a home page and like a post revolutionary war tab, and have all the class materials, do nows, and assignments there, and then the next unit here, and then the next unit there. I'd probably try both, see what happens to be best. But I learned a lot in this MMP. Um, I liked how I got to use the different tools like the slideshows, the forums, the screencasts, and Weebly. I really liked the design process with Weebly. It was really easy to use, and I would recommend it to whoever else. Um, Unfortunately, I didn't have um, this site for my last update, so I didn't really have any feedback to go off of. But I kind of used some feedback that I got from that and tailored it more towards this, like using the like putting the assignments there and having them upload. That was one of the recommendations. But yeah, please leave any tips, because even though I won't update it for the class, I'll have that in mind when I create a site for my actual classroom. But thank you, and it was a pleasure being your classmate.